All I remember is feeling something sticky in my pants and then finding them covered in blood. And not my blood.
Part of my talent, Brian, is to spare you any unpleasantness.
Yeah, but when it comes to blood in my underwear, I want to know how it got there.
Well, it's no big deal. Nothing to get upset about. Came from that girl at the club.
What girl?
The girl whose brains I ate.
What?
The blood came from a girl whose brains I sucked out.
You sucked out her brains?
Yeah, right through her mouth.
Is she dead?
Of course she's dead. What, are you kidding?
What are you telling me, that we killed someone last night?
You really don't remember any of it?
No, I don't!
Welcome back, everyone, to Master of the Universe Horror Podcast. Today, we're going to be doing 1988's Brain Damage again, because last time we did this, I done fucked it up and erased our recording. Of course, we got Christopher J with us tonight, and Mark's playing that game again, dude.
As always.
Yeah, so Brain Damage is a dark, it's like a horror comedy. It's not really like a horror movie, but it's one of those movies that it's got horror elements, of course, because there's a killing alien type creature in it, but it's not anything like scary or anything like that. It's kind of popcorn fun, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, the villain isn't a particularly frightening entity insofar as how he interacts with the protagonist, and it's more a thing where it's kind of dark humor, if anything.
Yeah, that's. I didn't realize it until I was kind of going through all my one of my top favorite movies and stuff, and I was like, I'm a real big fan of if they have to be extremely serious or something like this, you know. I'm like, there's no in between for me. But this one, I had just checked it out for the first time, scrolling through all the apps. Of course, it's on Tubi for free right now. If you're interested in checking it out, just check it out there. And, of course, with the Roku and you have access to all the apps in the world, I mean, why wouldn't you check out something, you know, that's just there for free? People always just Redbox shit. And isn't it awesome how Tubi is? You can just, like, fucking search for anything. And, you know, if it's there, you just got to go through a 15-second ad.
Oh, exactly. I mean, the thing with all these, there's so many, people don't realize, like you're saying, people don't realize there's so many free apps to watch, free movies and free TV shows for that matter. Tubi is one of the better ones because of the variety of content they have. FilmRise is excellent. Crackle's pretty good, but it's limited. Roku Channel's limited, but it's still pretty good.
Pluto and stuff like that. And
Pluto, very good. And then if you have an Amazon Fire Stick, they have one called IMDb Free Dive.
IMDb. Well, Roku, like you said, the Roku channel actually has like a lot of good movies. Like not like a shit ton, but it has, you know, pretty good stuff. Like I remember, you know, just checking it out, and like at one point, I don't know if they still have it, but they had like Terminator 1. They had the 1990 Ninja Turtles movie on there. They had a bunch of it was I forgot the name of it. I had heard of, it's called The Outer Limits. I had heard about it, but I was real young, and I was like, The Outer Limits, and basically what that is, it's kind of like, you know, the Twilight Zone kind of shit. And it's like, wow, they got like a lot of interesting stuff. And, you know, if you're bored, you want to check something out that's new, I mean, the Roku and all the apps, dude, in the world are the way to go. Like, I can never see, I know, like right now we're going through, everyone's kind of, what's it called, social distancing, and you got to stay home and you really don't want to go out. Hey, man, all you got to do is, you know, order yourself a Roku and, you know, just have fun and enjoy all the free movies you want and get some popcorn, right? Am I right or what?
Absolutely. And the best thing is, if you can, like you said, if you can put up with 2 commercials every 15 minutes, it's free stuff. You know, why pay for Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, HBO Stars, whatever, when these apps like Tubi, Crackle, Roku Channel are free?
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm kind of getting addicted to it because it's so easy just to click. You know, before I was a DVD collector, and of course, like horror movie collector. Like if this wasn't on, Tubi, I would have seen it once or whatever. I would have for sure gotten that thing on like a Blu-ray collector's disc and all that stuff, which is expensive. It's like, typically for those collector stuff, they're like right around $20, and that's a few months of a subscription to a lot of these apps. It sounds like I'm trying to sell you, but I'm just trying to give you guys a good time when it comes to having fun. Because I've seen like a lot of stuff before getting to the film. Like I've seen like a lot of people like complaining, and I know it's tough, and there's like we got this problem going on, but I mean, who doesn't want to be at home and enjoy your time doing your thing, and and like I understand if you don't enjoy what's going on. But as far as like being bored, I'm like, how can you be bored when you can do whatever you want at your home? Like you should have some kind of hobbies.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, how many times, like, when everything was normal, let's call it a month ago, and everyone, and you know how people always like, man, I really want to see this movie, I just haven't had time. I really want to do this, I just haven't had time. Well, it's like anything that involved being at home that you want to do but just didn't have the time. Now you've got the fucking time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never bored, and like. I think like people have an addiction when it goes to like going out, I guess. Like I always see certain people, like you'll be friends with people on Facebook, and they're the same people that are like always going out to eat, like to sit down and eat at restaurants and enjoy themselves, which is cool. I mean, I like to do it too once in a while, but you'll see like some of the same people like day in 2 or 3 times a day going out to eat, sitting down. I'm like, man, I wish I had fucking time to do that, you know what I mean? Like to go out, sit there, waste an hour, go back home, do whatever, go back and go out and eat again for an hour, and then like on the weekends, of course, they go out to bars, they have their drinks, and they go out to eat after. So now it's like they can't go out and they can't do those things. I guess they feel like I don't know, like they're in jail. Me, I'm like, I go out to eat once in a while, but I mean, it's not like you still can't eat good. Like, I mean, one of my go-to places is, placing an order online at Wingstop, getting me those over-ass tenders with ranch and coming back home with, my food there, have me a drink or two, watch something like Brain Damage, and I'm having tons of fun. I've been playing video games now because it's kind of like, I've always kind of been a person that kind of like chills at the house. But even now more so because it's like I really don't want to go out. I try and go out as least often as possible because everywhere you go, it's kind of like kind of crazy with everything gone or just people acting a little strange.
Oh yeah, I mean the way it's been. I mean it's like I like not having traffic even at 5:30 in the afternoon. That's pretty badass.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like but like in the morning when I still had to drive to work before we all went home for work. I remember like always being tons of cars, and the good news about that was you never had to worry about getting a speeding ticket. But now, on the morning rush to work, you very well could because there's not that many fucking cars, and it's just it's like halfway to that movie I Am Legend.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Was it Will Smith in it? Or no, is it Will Smith or is it Denzel?
It was Will Smith.
Will Smith, okay. Yeah, I know both of them. They have a movie. It's kind of similar, but yeah, it's cool to go out and But the whole point is hey man, your guy, I was laughing. I saw a guy post about it too. He's like, I'm gonna laugh when all this shit's over with and people are complaining that they have to go back to work. They can't wait to go home. I'm like, people are never happy. They'll always find something to complain about. I'm like, you always gotta find the good in a shitty situation, especially like this. I'm like, hey, at least I get to still work. Some people like, unfortunately they're not able to work, but for those of you that are, still getting paid, whatever the case may be, try and find the bright side and things, other things to do. But on to the movie Brain Damage. And when you first saw this, what were your thoughts when the guy, it stars Brian, who's the main character, his brother Mike, his girlfriend Barbara, but then we meet Martha and Morris, who are like the middle-aged couple, and she's all excited. I love like the completely different personalities, like the overly chippy and excited to like the complete breakdown that she goes through within like the 2 minutes of the scene. And when Morris shows up with the brains and he's like, oh no, he's not going to enjoy this. And I'm like, what the fuck are these little brains? I'm like, what the fuck could they be feeding, brains to?
And that exactly. That was... So the first time I watched this movie a few Sundays ago, I watched it, and the entire first, probably not even first half, probably like first 2/3 almost, I was like, this is the dumbest fucking movie ever. Like the whole time I'm watching, like, this is so stupid and it's ridiculous and it's gross and it's this, that, and the other thing. But when you have seen the entire movie and then you go back and watch it again, it's not so bad because you're catching things you didn't catch the first time around, and like it makes more sense. But it speaks to a flaw in the movie because like I hear a lot of people who are actors and do improv and stuff like that, and they say we do the best acting when we say nothing at all, when we show don't tell. Okay, I agree, that's fine, but here's the problem with that is you have to be good at conveying the message without saying words. And here, this first half hour of this movie, they're not doing a very good job of telling the story without dialogue, without explanation, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, the actors in the film, it's one of those ones that it takes a while for things to start happening, but once shit starts going and we meet our main star, Elmer, that's when the shit really starts, kicking ass. And the director for this film, before we go further, he's made like a lot of films similar that we might end up doing. I know Basket Case is a real famous film. It's way more famous than Brain Damage, but I've seen Basket Case like once a long time ago, and it was pretty good. I liked it, but this one was a lot more entertaining to me. Basket Case is a little bit more, it's dark humor, but I think it's a little bit more sad and and he actually makes an appearance, and we'll get to that.
You would be this director you're referring to. That wouldn't happen to be Frank Henenlotter, would it?
That would be that sumbitch. I had heard someone died recently, and I was all like, was it him? But I looked at it. I had remembered the name, seen it everywhere. But then I looked at his Wikipedia page and IMDb, and it says it wasn't him. But I'm like, well, who the fuck was it that was affiliated with this film or associated with it? That died recently, and I could have sworn it was him, but. They haven't updated anything yet, but I was confused for a little bit because I was all like, I had just told myself, I was like, well, son of a bitch, we had just did that film, and like 2 or 3 days later, someone that was working on the all the same films, Basket Case, Brain Damage, Frank Henenlotter, they're all done by the same people, passed away. So I was all like, man, we did it right there at that moment before the news hit. But like I said, I have to look into it again. I forgot which. I could have sworn it was him, but I guess not. That he had.
Frank, did you just say Frankenhooker?
Yeah, it's called Frankenhooker. Yep.
Is that a movie about zombie dick slaves?
Dick slave zombies, dude. Yeah, you got it backwards. But yeah, so it starts off and Martha goes to go feed whatever it is in the tub, and she just starts going crazy, and like she's all freaking out, and like I'm just like really envious of their fucking pad. Did you see all the like tribal African looking nice kind of little gimmicks they have around their apartment?
I did, and on first view of this movie I was like, okay, are these people occultists or what the fuck?
Yeah. I'm like, because when we find out later that basically all they do is get high, and that's why they have this guy we're gonna meet in a little bit. But I'm like, how do they afford all this cool shit if they're just getting fucked up the whole day? You know what I mean? Like, if I just got fucking wasted, like, from morning to night, like, how the fuck am I able to work?
Yeah.
But, so they start going around the apartment building, and they're looking for who we'll find out is Elmer. But we meet Brian, and like, I didn't really, like, see it the way I see it now after, like, seen it a few times and kind of putting the whole drug connection together. And like when Brian, I guess, is first getting used to these injections, because we find out he's getting injected by Elmer, who's like a parasite, and his girlfriend goes to go wake him up so they can go to a concert. Is he like, quote, like, I know he's not drinking, but it's like, it's almost like he's hungover, right?
Yeah, it's like he's hungover. It's like he's might be a little bit depressed or whatever it is, because like he's wanting to just do nothing but sleep, but like Elmer has not entered his life yet. So I mean, it makes you wonder, like, what is the flaw of this character that he's that tired all the time, and he's got this pretty girlfriend, wants to go to a concert and all this stuff.
Well, that's the thing, is that when he wakes up sick, but he's already been infected by Elmer. Elmer's been there, that because he had escaped. And that's why he's waking up like that, because, like I said, that's the hangover. Oh. So yeah, that's why. Because like I said, I didn't make the connection. I was just kind of like, oh, he's.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I was like, why doesn't he feel good? But then I'm like, oh, Elmer's already injected him with that stuff, and it's like he's just kind of fighting a hangover. He's not. It's like if you've never drank before, and then you drink 2 beers and you're like, fuck, I got a hangover the next day. Like you're not used to it, and then you start getting used to it and all that crap. But I was like, oh, he's just hungover, because that's why when they do leave and they take off and they leave him there, like. Like he starts tripping out again. Like he sees like the floor is all like blue, but it's just like a taste. It's not enough to really get him over, but it's just a taste of things to come, dude. No homo.
Yeah, no, and then you later see like he has that blue gelatin like inside of a waterbed material next to the bed, and then he goes inside the bathroom and gets his neck like. It's like a hornet sting going into his neck and stuff like that, and he bleeds, and he doesn't know where he's bleeding from.
His ass. We finally meet the star of the show, Elmer, who's voiced by a pretty famous guy. His name is something Zachary. He had actually did like a horror show like where he was like the host, and he would he's got a very distinct voice. I guess that's why they had him as the horror host. Yeah, John Zachary as the voice of Elmer, and Elmer he's like a parasite type alien. Yeah, I don't know how you would explain him, but he looks like a worm. And yeah, he goes in the back of Brian's neck and he injects him with like a little almost needle type injection shit, and basically gets him all fucked up. So it's like an anti-drug movie, right? You were saying last time.
Yeah, so you inject him with a hallucinogenic thing that like fucks with his brain, where his brain becomes dependent on it, and he has these like hallucinogenic, hypnotic, phases with this blue liquid. Now, yeah, it is an anti-drug measure, because remember, this is 1988, like the war on drugs. They're like voting on like criminal penalties for crack versus cocaine in the Congress, stuff like that. So that's huge. And if you're a Reagan baby like myself, i.e., if you were born during the first term of Ronald Reagan, like you remember being in first grade, second grade, third grade, all that anti-drug speakers taking you out of class, so you go listen to them talk about how bad drugs are, and then you go home and there's these like. On a Thursday night, there'll be this 2-hour show on ABC or NBC with, celebrities talking about how bad drugs are, and of course those celebrities are probably on them, But it's just it was. But that's the thing, though, is, and we'll get into this later, but you really see the similarities of this guy and his control over you, and the similarities of narcotic addiction, and the similarities of like demonic possession.
Yeah, the thing about this one is that. Like we're seeing all that, and like they kind of flash back and forth to where like Brian's getting like the trip, like when he's laying in bed, like you had mentioned it, but like I always freaked out because like he's staring at the ceiling and he could see it like as like an eyeball, and then we go back to Martha and Morris, and they are like foaming from the mouth because they're like missing their drug, and I'm like, son of a bitch, man.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I didn't catch that the first time I watched it, but I watched it again. I was like, damn, they're foaming from the mouth over this shit.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck? So, and like this is like really like the turning point for the movie. Finally, like when Elmer, shows himself, because Brian, is in the mirror, and I cracked the fuck up when he finally revealed it, because I was as interested. Trying to find it out, what's going on as I could be, when it first happened. He's like, okay, who is it? Show yourself, and you just see this thing like twirling around his body, slowly going up to his neck, and I'm like, what the fuck is that, And I'm like, I couldn't imagine to see what we were going to see, which is, Elmer, the way he looks all blue, but he's got a personality, like a chill personality, and he just pops up, gives the Mark eyebrows, hi, and... And then he's in the little bucket, dude, the Chris bucket, and he's like, Brian's like, I'm confused, I don't know. He's like, well, you never have to, worry about it again. I'll do all your thinking for you and all that shit. And I was kind of like, I was confused. I'm like, is he supposed to trust them, or would you trust them? He's like, all you have to do is put me on your neck, and I'm like, I'm all asking myself. I'm like, would I listen to this thing? Because he's promising all these things. Like, I have no idea that at this point when I first saw it, like he was like some kind of drug. I was just kind of like, what does he mean? Is he gonna like make him smart? Or did you have any of those same thoughts when he was first introduced, asking for that, or like if he was gonna take him over, shit like that?
Oh, I was already assuming like a demonic possession type of style of thing, and I mean. And then you later see it when he injects him with that blue liquid on the brain. And he goes to a fucking car junkyard, and I'm like, what's he doing at a car junkyard? Like, what's there? And then, lo and behold, there's that security guard, and he lures him in, because he's like, hey, what's someone doing in the middle of the night here?
Put your fucking hands up, motherfucker!
and he's all lures him in. Of course, it's just a trap. It's just setting a trap so Aylmer can eat away at his brains.
Yeah, I fucking like, I was like, okay, this is what we're in for. Like when he's like running down the street and then he just jumps the fence into that junkyard, like you said, and then like you see all the lights coming from the cars, like, and like the music's all like whatever the hell's going on and the different light show and the
You know what that reminded me of? I didn't mean to cut you off, but you know what that reminded me of when you're seeing cars and lights emanating out of them and stuff like that, and then it's an 80s movie on top of that?
What Simon Says or what?
Repo Man.
Repo Man. I've never seen Repo Man. Well, I guess we're going to have to do it now. But the Repo Man from the WWE, dude, Repo. But yeah, I was laughing at that scene because I'm like, what the fuck? He's there dancing. Well, like the cop, the security guard's like, hands up. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, the lights. He's like, turn around, motherfucker. Like that guy was so fucking like pissed off that he was in the junkyard, dude. And, like, but he's so calm before he even gets to him. Like he's putting his hat on slow, and then fucking he's loading his gun. I'm like, jeez. And then we go back to Brian's pad with his brother. And like he's locked himself into the restroom, taking a bath, and they're all worried about him because they can hear him in the shower, like, and they're like, he's been in there for hours, and he's over there like singing, going like woo, like he's in there with fucking Elmer, and they're just having a good old time, dude. So
I know, I was watching that, I was like, that's fucking weird.
Yeah, it was pretty fucking insane, and then that's when Brian goes out after that with Barbara, and she's like, and it kind of reminded me of people that are on drugs, because of course, like the relationship's like always gonna break apart or fall apart when someone's on drugs. You know what I mean? Like, he's at the restaurant, and like of course he sees the like meatballs turning into brains, but he's all like, no, he's all like, you don't understand, like, like I see colors, I can, and like, or I can hear colors and all this and that, and I'm like,
and she's like, are you saying like you're seeing everything different? Are you saying us? We need to break up? No, it's just everything. Like,
yeah. I'm like, that sounds like someone I know, man. When you just like, you don't give a fuck anymore. You're just like, you're just interested in getting fucked up, and you don't see clearly. You know what I mean? And then 6 months later, you're trying to come back. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Insane. And then after that, he goes out to like a little club or whatever, and he meets a really hot girl, dude. God dang, that chick. I read that she's the same chick that's gonna be, that's in Frankenhooker as the primary girl in that. So I'm very interested. Yeah, I'm very interested because I saw her and I was like, damn, that girl's way harder than Barbara, dude. I'm like, he needs to drop that Barbara shit and get on that girl, because she took him straight out to the side of the building and starts, blowing him literally, dude. And that's when Elmer comes out of his pants and, gets the best of her. I would have been pissed, dude. You know what I mean? If Elmer would have took that fine piece of ass.
And you notice how even early on in the movie, you mentioned Barbara, like even early on you kind of see it. Like, so Brian lives in a 2-bedroom apartment with his brother Mike. Mm-hmm. So, like, I didn't realize until later in the movie, Brian and Mike are brothers living together in a 2-bedroom. And I'm guessing in New York City. And you see, like, when Barbara will come in to the apartment, and you see they have kind of a connection, her and Mike. Mm-hmm. It's just weird. Like, and so then later on, of course, that'll manifest itself. But
yeah, it's kind of fucked up. I couldn't date somebody after my brother's, taking her to Pound Town. I'd be like, no, that's for you. That's for you. And then finally, Brian kind of like, he sees that there's blood on his pants, and then he like he throws out his underwear, and that's when Morris kind of confronts him, and he tells him like, you have him, don't you? And he goes through the tells him about who Elmer is and how he's been around. Elmer. Yeah, not Elmer. Elmer. You know how he's been around for centuries or whatever the fuck.
The fourth crusade in like 1204 AD or whatever.
Yeah, he goes through the whole thing. I'll add the little cutscenes in between here because this movie's that over, and we won't get copyright strikes. So we'll upload some clips for you folks that are interested in seeing this and don't want to sit through a whole hour and 20 minutes of it, because it's one of those things that it's a good watch one time, maybe twice, but yeah, it's not something you'll be going back to all the time, because it's.
Yeah, I would tell the audience watch it twice, because the first time you watch it, you're gonna be like, what the fuck is this stupid ass, poorly told story? This is so dumb and it's crazy. You're gonna be saying that, but if you watch it again, like it'll make more sense and be more worthy when you watch this. I mean, it's still not a great movie, but. It plays out better the second time around. It makes so much more sense even early on.
Yeah.
But when interesting take, and I know you'll as a music guy you'll appreciate this. When Morris Ackerman is telling him the story of Aylmer's history, you know what it reminded me is that Rolling Stones song about like the devil and how he like manifests himself in all these historical things. I was there at St. Petersburg.
So was it Sympathy for the Devil? Is that the one?
I think that's what it's called. It's all, I was there when Jesus Christ had his moment of doubt and pain.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check it. That might be the song for this one. Who knows? But yeah, he confronts him, and then Brian goes on lockdown because he wants to know what's going on. And I cracked the fuck up because he's asking him like, do you remember the girl, from the other night? He's like, or he's like, what happened to the girl from the other night? And he tells him like, you really don't remember? And he's like, no. He's like, I sucked her brains out of her mouth. And he's like, is she dead? He's like, of course she's dead. What are you kidding me? And then
you know what that reminded me of? That part right there. I mean, that's such like a dumb moment, but. What do you call it? That reminded me of like you remember that Anna Nicole reality show from like 15 years ago?
Yeah.
I remember that time she's with that guy he's like this big like I don't remember what he was. He was something and like some business he owned had been hit by suicide bombers over in the Middle East, and he was explaining to her about yes, these guys they put bombs underneath their clothing and then they blow themselves up, and she goes, wouldn't that hurt?
Exactly, dude. That's the same kind of response. So Brian's, he's talking down to Elmer. He's like, no, now I'm calling the shots. And I mean the whole scene when he's on lockdown with Elmer, it's great because like all the great back, like that's probably one of the best part of the movie, like the back and forth with them, besides the port we went over. And then like he tells him like, we're not doing that again. He's like, doing what again? He goes, killing people. He goes, oh, I thought you meant drugs. Ha ha ha. He starts laughing at him. And then, like, he keeps talking shit, and then he's like, oh, no, now I'm going to make you beg for it, Brian. He's like, great, no drugs for you, and I don't get any brains. We'll see who can last to this. And poor Brian, man, he looks like a fucking wreck, dude. You know what I mean? Like, he gets worse and worse. He starts hallucinating, and he has that one hallucination of him like ripping out his brains to his fucking ear, dude.
Yeah, he was doing like that magic trick where he's pulling like 10 feet of cloth out of his ear or some shit.
Yeah, I thought it was like part of the movie, like obvious part of the movie, but I thought it was like reality in the movie at first, and then I realized,
So did I.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, the motherfucker, like, how is he still pulling out his shit in his ear, And he finally like starts crawling to the sink where Elmer's at, and he's like, help me, and then that's when we get to hear the most over song of all time. That's Elmer's tune, and it reminded me of Mark. Like, and we both said it. You're like, dude. You're like, it did remind me of him. That's what I thought of, because like he's crawling to the sink, and Elmer's kind of ignoring him, just singing, and then he's telling him, help me. He's like, oh hi Brian, how's it going? He's like. Oh, of course I'll help you, pal. We're pals. Like, because for those of you that don't know, whenever on the chat, like, there's like we can get the worst news possible, and of course Mark pops up exactly like that. How's it going, Chris? How you doing, dude? scooter. Hey Joe, when are we going to Top Golf? Dude, when he finds out I ain't getting any money, like all the same shit, dude. I was getting a crack out of it because as soon as that happened, I was like, oh, that's fucking Mark, dude. That's Mark like a son of a bitch. But Elmer makes him go and get him some brains before he gets him all fucked up, and that's when they go to like you said it was like a Y or YMCA or whatever. Where
that's what I thought where they were saying that. And yeah, I mean I gotta say in that bathroom scene, Rick or Brian, Rick's the name of the real actor. Brian is like totally a fucking junkie in that. In every possible way, it reminded me of the movie Trainspotting, but or like maybe even worse. But well, not worse. But anyway, so yeah, I think it is a YMCA. Like I mean, people don't realize it, but not so much now. But back, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even. The YMCA, like the song says, it was a place where like a young man could go, like if you were, you had a minimum wage job and you're barely getting by, and you just needed a room and a bed and a sink and a toilet and all that stuff. It was, I mean, like my original efficiency apartment was heaven compared to these places they would give guys, but it was just, I mean, it was that kind of place, and that's where and I'm like, that's the only logical deduction I can make that's what it is where he's staying. And then they go into that fucking shower. It's like a public shower, like a prison shower or some shit, and or like the middle school gym shower. And he's looking at this fucking like Hercules Hernandez motherfucker, like staring at like, dude, you're just asking to get decked. What are you doing?
Are you gonna start singing the YMCA song?
Young man, do anything I want us to do. You're mine now, Brian. I own you. Tacky, Brian, tacky.
The face Brian was giving the dude, when like he's walking into the shower, like he's like staring, like the guy's like, hey man, you new here? And he's like, he just like shakes his head. He's like, don't worry man, no one's gonna mess with you. And then he like keeps staring at him. He's like, what's your problem, man? Like he's just.
I know.
I was like, oh shit. And then the part that I thought when I first saw it, because I guess I wasn't paying attention because I was trying not to look at the Hercules Hernandez guy's back and ass, because that's all you're seeing the whole time with him, soaping himself and shit. I'm just like, oh, kind of like, looking away, just doing my own thing. And then I look back up and I see a black guy taking a shit with like hardly any toilet paper. There was like one or two. I don't know why I paid attention to it. I guess because it's the toilet paper, time of the world right now. And I saw the toilet paper and I'm like, man, good luck with that, because that guy's over there like reading a comic or whatever, and like a horror magazine. And Brian like finds out that Elmer's in there and attacks him, and it has like the most over the top like death blood scene. Did you see how much blood was squirting out of that motherfucking stall?
I did, and the irony is that was happening in some like the cleanest public restrooms I've ever seen. And this is before Buc-ee's.
Yeah, it was like literally like blood squirting over the fucking door and hitting the ceiling. I'm like, man, they really wanted to get over like the death scene on this one. They're like, how can we make this look absolutely brutal? They're like, well, because like all the other deaths, like even though like Elmer is like sucking their brains out or whatever through their mouth, or like you really don't see too much blood. But for this one, for whatever reason, they put blood on the floor, blood on the rocks, blood on the streets. That's if you want blood, you've got it. Basically, it was blood fucking everywhere. And then Brian finally like takes off with Elmer, and it's kind of fucked up and weird. But he's like laying down at home, and he hears Mike and Barbara like talking about him, and then they get it on, and he goes to the room and just tells them like that he doesn't want them to like, he's gonna go away basically because he doesn't want, he's explaining to them what's going on, but I guess he's not making too much sense, He's like being taken over by Elmer, I'm assuming, like completely. Like I said, Elmer is like taking over him because every time she looks away, like Elmer comes out of his mouth, and I'm thinking like, how the fuck is Elmer in his fucking mouth? You know what I mean? Because it's like he's not an entity, So I'm like, I just thought it was super weird because like, did you see that scene when that shit was happening?
I did, and I agree. It's not consistent because he is a tangible being. Like, he's not some spiritual demon where only certain people can see him and you can walk right through him. Like, he's there in the third dimension for everybody to grab. So how that would be happening again, I agree on that.
Yeah, I was like really confused because, like I said, I would zone in and out of the film, and like I was really watching it through this time and like writing down certain things that I didn't see before and like what was going on. Because at first I thought Hercules Hernandez died, but he doesn't die. It's just the black guy in the restroom, and then we see the guy that stars in Basket Case with his basket, and it's like they're both staring at each other. And that guy's got like the most ridiculous hair, the Basket Case guy. It's just like a weird looking fucking hairdo. If anyone's seen Devin, whatever, Lariat or something like that, he's the arm wrestling champion. When he had a mullet, that's like the exact same hair, or at least he reminds me of the way he looks too. But kind of a sad getting towards the end here, ending. Brian decides to kiss Barbara, and of course, we don't see it, but we know what happens because he's like seeing like almost an infrared, like the Predator would. Because I guess again, Elmer is taking over him, and like he eats Barbara's brains through her mouth, when they're making out, and he just kind of slowly, gently puts her on the train, like to go to sleep almost. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, he just killed his girlfriend or whatever? Like, I understand, like, was, like, he possessed by Elmer at this point? Because that's the only thing that makes sense now, right? I mean, if you're trying to make sense of the shit.
Or he's so, in a way he always is, because if he's reliant on that liquid, that hallucinogenic, psychotropic liquid, to give him this good feeling and stuff, you get to the point where you're going to do anything to keep having that feeling. So, yeah, is he possessed? Not in the demon possession, satanic sense of the term, but is he possessed in terms of, is normal psychological processes and morals and ethics being thrown off by a dependency on this? Yeah, he is.
He's like, brother, that was years ago. Yeah. Yeah, and then he gets off the train and he heads home, and then he gets the stick up from Morris and Martha. They look like a wreck, and I didn't really talk about it through the whole film, but right away they go from like looking like the most happiest people to looking pale and then like zombie-like towards the end. They look fucking ridiculous. Am I right or what? It's like...
I agree. You think the movie starts out and you see them, and you think like they're like bringing food to like their pet cat or pet chihuahua or some shit. It's this old, Jewish couple in New York, nice people, all this stuff. And then you find out they're feeding something brains. And like, okay, that's fucking weird, but okay. And then and then she's like screaming like frantically. It's like when you just found out. It's like when you just find your dog died or something. Like, she's screaming like that.
Yes, yeah. Ah! She really gets it over, right? Like it's like bad acting, but it's such overacting, like it's enjoyable. Like, like you're just like, oh my god, it's like ridiculous. And he's got like the World War II kind of gun, dude. Morris.
Yeah.
And they finally get Elmer, and she's like, oh, Elmer, and like even the guy, he's like, he's getting upset, Morris, because he wants to take the drugs first, of course, from Elmer. And then Elmer fucking attacks, the old lady, and she just looks like a goblin almost, like when he's like sucking her brains out of her forehead. Like I said, they go from zombie to like almost goblin-like looking people, and of course Elmer kills her, and then attacks Morris or Maurice. I keep on mixing it up, Morris, and he's there chewing on his brains, and Brian said, "Come on, let's go." Like I don't remember if he was telling him like, "Let's get out of here," or like, get me high. And he's like, "I'm not done." I'm still eating. He's there eating, and then he finally, like, because he wants to like give Brian some relief, he like stops, finishing the job basically, dude. He didn't finish the job on Morris, and he goes in back of his neck, of course, to get him fucked up, to get him high. And then Morris comes out of nowhere, dude, does the run in and fucking squeezes like, overdoses, and I guess that's the best thing, and I guess that's kind of like the point they're trying to make is like they overdose Brian with the drug, and like you just see like the sparks in his brain because he's got so much of that liquid, that purplish bluish liquid going to him, and
But can I say? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
But again, that's how I'm like on Morris and Martha. So yeah, I mean Martha's an idiot because right away she just grabs. Oh, it's like this thing's evil. Like I mean, you can't treat it that nice. I mean, it could just as soon kill you in a moment's notice. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's of her. I mean, if we're talking about like her character's real, I mean that's suspending disbelief. Yeah, I mean that was dumb on her part. And then Morris, obviously, he knows better. He's like, "What are you doing? You fool! Give him to me!" But
yeah, exactly.
I didn't. But see, here's the thing. Like, I know they get the psychotropic from him. I know they get the hallucinogenic from him.
Yeah.
But I don't take Morris's motives as purely like feeding his own drug addiction with us. I think he really does want to control Aylmer because I think he recognizes, like, even though he's addicted to what Aylmer gives, he recognizes the evil that he can bring upon people and he can influence people with. So he wants to control him.
Yeah, I have to agree because he wasn't letting him eat human brains. That's why he was giving him like dead animal brains already. And like Elmer was like, no, they were trying to control me and keep me weak, And it's like that was the really the right way to go about doing it is not letting him, of course, kill people and still giving him what he needs, but not what he wanted. You know what I mean? Like he still needed brains, but not human live brains and all that shit. And like I said, Brian ends up basically overdosing, even though he doesn't like die or we see him die. We just see the sparkling brain, and the cops finally show up after all the commotion and all the shit that's happened in the film. The police finally show up and they break into Brian's room and they see, because it's like that little portion of his forehead, it's like sticking out, and you're just like, you could feel that shit. You know what I mean? Like the tension that's going through his head, like trying to get relief from all that shit that's in there. And then they open it up, and it's just like a hole in his head, like if he got shot, and like light coming out of it. And I was just like, what a fucking crazy, fucked up, sad ending. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the worst part about it, and this is what I said when we tried doing this the first time, I said there's no real payoff to this. Yeah. It's not a pure it's not really a tragic payoff, like a tragic ending, like a lot of movies do have. But it's not like a crowd goes home happy payoff either, because he has that brain explosion with light, but like you don't see how anyone ends up better off or worse off as a result of that.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of like downer endings. Yeah, like exactly what you said. It's like Brian didn't come out on top. Elmer's dead. The people that had Elmer died. It's like Barbara's dead. I mean, Mike's brother's, killed himself basically, or is gonna die. It's like, okay, So it was kind of a disappointing ending. I was hoping there was like a sequel to like continue the story, that like, maybe Elmer comes back or something. But no, that was it. So I was disappointed with it. It's a cool, crazy, like it leaves you wanting more because it's not enough, but it's kind of disappointing as well. Of course. But
Hey, you said you thought Aylmer might come back?
No, I was hoping he was. I was like, there has to be a sequel, because like you just can't have him die like that, and we don't know what happened to Brian. But yeah, there was never a sequel or anything like that, so I was kind of like even more disappointed, because I was like, searching Brain Damage 2, there has to be a continuation, that somehow another Elmer came, but no.
But you know what you would have to do if you were going to do that?
Huh.
You would have to have a black teenager star off the movie. Man, Elmer is dead. How many times I got motherfuckers say that?
Exactly, dude. Exactly. And then someone have to piss on him, dude, and then it's all good after that. But what do you?
Elmer's back!
Yeah, Elmer's back. Tell him Elmer sent ya. So what would you
to a Cuban beat?
Put that to a Cuban beat. Fucking. So what would you give this film on a scale from 1 to 10? Dude, 10 being your favorite, 1 being a piece of shit.
I mean, only because it has some redeeming moments. I'm going to give it a 5.
You can give it a 5. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and give it a 6.5 out of 10, of course. It's way better than average, I think. But it does have some disappointing things on there. Like I love the film, but it's not a film that I'm gonna go back to watch over and over again. The best thing about it is is Elmer. The characters are kind of like whatever, but he's the one that makes it worth watching. You know, if you're into like monster kind of movies, I think this is a good movie for you. But of course, we'll be doing more and more movies like this, that 80s type horror comedy. But of course, we're gonna do some really good ones, really scary ones, like our favorite paranormal ones. And next week we'll be doing Insidious.
Please help me.
Sing it,
I need it.
so wing it. Any old way and any old time, the hurdy-gurdies, the birdies, the cop on the beat, the candy maker, the baker, the man on the street, the city charmer, the farmer, the man in the moon. Oh, sing Elmer's tune. Hi, hello, Brian. How are you? How you doing?
Help me. Please help me.
Hey, of course I'll help you, Brian. You and I are pals.